The Halberts were always strange, even by Appalachian standards. In the hills outside of Grayson County, Virginia, nestled deep in the hollows where roads turned to dirt and dirt gave way to deer trails, the Halbert name inspired more silence than speech. If you asked locals, they'd change the subject. If you pressed them, they'd spit and say, "Ain't none of your business what folks do with their own blood." But there were always rumors, strange lights moving through the trees, the sound of organ music drifting through the fog, children whispering about bones stacked in the root cellar, and the dead they never left. The story truly begins in 172, after the Civil War had left scars deeper than musket wounds. Union and Confederate both had marched through Grayson's hills, and the land never quite healed. The Halberts owned 400 acres of broken farmland and pine forest. The patriarch Ezekiel Halbert was a towering man with a white beard to his belt and eyes like flint. He'd served as a Confederate quartermaster, though no one could prove it. After the war, he returned to the hills with wagons full of who knew what and set to building. The house was unlike anything in the region. 3 stories tall, built from dark oak hauled in from Kentucky, 12 gables, a bell tower, stained glass windows imported from Germany. Locals called it the church house, though no sermon was ever preached within. Ezekiel had 8 children, and every one of them stayed. Not one married. Not one ever left the mountain. The youngest, Abigail, was said to be beautiful. She was never seen after her 16th birthday. The Halberts farmed little, hunted less. Yet they never seemed to need money. The old general store in Independence said a Halbert boy came down once a month with a list and paid in gold coins. But no one ever saw them die. Not once in 50 years did a Halbert obituary appear in the Grayson Gazette, and that, perhaps, is why Sheriff Amos Tiller finally went up the mountain. Sheriff Tiller was not a man given to superstition. He believed in law, hard facts, and a loaded rifle. But when widows whispered of nighttime wailing from the hills, and when 3 hunters turned up missing inside Halbert territory, he saddled his horse and rode out. It was a cold October morning. Fog clung to the trees like cobwebs. As he crossed the old wooden bridge into Halbert land, even his horse grew nervous, snorting and dancing side to side. The path was overgrown, but passable. The trees thickened until they swallowed the sun. Then the house appeared. It rose from the earth like something half, buried, gothic and silent, its windows staring blankly like the eyes of a corpse. The bell tower loomed above the pines, its iron bell rusted but intact. No one greeted him, no sound but the wind. Tiller dismounted, hand resting on the grip of his colt. He climbed the steps to the front door, its frame carved with symbols he didn't recognize, crosses twisted into knots, stars with too many points, faces with no mouths. He knocked. Nothing. He knocked again. Then the door creaked open. The man who opened it was pale, rail, thin and shirtless despite the cold. His eyes were cloudy, unfocused. "I'm here to speak to Ezekiel Halbert," Tiller said, stepping forward. The man didn't answer, just turned and walked back into the darkness. Tiller followed. The interior of the house was worse than he imagined. It was cavernous, with high arching ceilings and long corridors lit only by flickering candles. The air stank not of rot, but of something older, dust, wax, dried herbs, and something beneath it all, something meaty. Portraits lined the walls, dozens of Halberts all in black, all unsmiling. Their eyes followed him. The man led him to a vast parlor where a fire barely burned. Ezekiel Halbert sat in a throne-like chair, draped in a wool blanket, eyes sharp despite his age. "Tiller," he rasped. "Come to trespass? I've come to investigate the disappearances. The sheriff said, 3 men lost, last seen near your land. There are always men lost in the woods. Tracks lead here. Ezekiel smiled. The mountain takes what belongs to it. Tiller stared. What does that mean? It means you're wasting time. Ezekiel said, go home, sheriff. Nothing up here for you but cold bones and old blood. Tiller's jaw tightened. I'll be back, with a warrant, with men. Ezekiel only smiled wider. Bring them. The mountain's hunger is older than you. And with that, the sheriff was shown out, but not before he glimpsed the hallway behind the parlor, a hallway filled with doors, each marked with a name, each sealed with wax, each silent, except one. From behind that door came a single sound, breathing, if Tiller rode back into town pale and grim. He didn't speak of what he saw not fully, but he told Mayor Elridge and the town council enough to raise every hair on their arms. The next morning, 5 deputies joined him: John Cate, Sealers Rowe, Otis Barker, Elias Trent, and Caleb Mosley. All good men, all armed, all skeptical. I ain't afraid of no weird old house. Sealers said, checking his rifle. You should be. Tiller muttered. The 6 men rode into Halbert land just before dawn. The mist hung thick and low. No birds sang. The house emerged from the fog like a memory silent, still waiting. No one answered the door. Tiller pushed it open. The candles inside still burned. Wax dripped in long, curling streams, unmoved by time. The 6 men split up. Tiller led 2 upstairs. Cate and Rowe took the cellar. Mosley remained near the front door, watching the hall. Then they found the doors, 9 in total, each marked with a name: Ezekiel, Ruth, Abigail, Jeremiah, Tobias, Mercy, Sealers, Jacob, and Anna. Each sealed with red wax and bound with black iron latches, except one, the door marked Abigail. The wax had melted. Tiller and Barker stood outside it, weapons drawn. The hallway smelled of roses and rot. Open it, Tiller ordered. Barker hesitated, then stepped forward and pulled the latch. The door creaked inward. Inside was a bedroom untouched by time, a lace-covered bed, a dressing table with silver combs. Dolls on shelves. The air was freezing. In the bed lay a woman, or what remained of one. She was dressed in white, hands folded over her chest. Her skin was pale and perfect, but her eyes were open. Unblinking. She's dead. Barker whispered. No. Tiller said, she's waiting. Suddenly, screams echoed from the cellar. Tiller bolted down the stairs, Barker on his heels. Cate was gone. Rowe was on the floor, trembling, eyes wide and mouth frothing. He muttered something over and over. There in the walls, there in the walls. They never left, they never leave. A crash from upstairs. Caleb Mosley fired his weapon. Then silence. Tiller reached the front hall just in time to see Mosley backing away from the central staircase. They're walking. Mosley gasped. The ones in the portraits. They're walking now. Tiller looked. The paintings on the wall were empty. All of them. The faces were gone. And from the hallway, from behind the wax, sealed doors, came the sound of locks clicking open. The house came alive, not with music, not with light, but with motion. Wood groaned beneath unseen footsteps. Windows slammed without wind. The air thickened, each breath a struggle, as if the house were pulling it away. The wax, sealed doors swung open one by one. From within stepped figures dressed in black funeral garb, their faces blank, skin like pale wax, mouths sewn shut with red thread. Jacob was first, still wearing the same coat he was last seen in back in 1859. His boots left no prints. Then came Mercy, her wedding veil yellowed with age, eyes sunken yet watching. Tiller aimed his revolver and fired. The shot struck Jacob in the chest and passed through with a puff of dust. No blood, no wound. Jacob didn't flinch. Tiller, Barker shouted, "We have to get out. Fall back." The sheriff ordered, grabbing Rowe by the collar and dragging him up the basement steps. The remaining deputies regrouped at the main hall, only to find the front door sealed shut, the iron knob red, hot to the touch. Outside, the fog had thickened to a wall. "They're surrounding us," Mosley whispered. And they were. From the hallways, from the stairwells, from inside the walls, the Halberts were coming, dozens of them, silent, unstoppable. Ezekiel stood at the top of the stairs, no longer old, no longer frail. He looked young, impossibly so, his beard gone, his back straight, his eyes burning like coal. "You came to bury us," he said, "but we were never buried." "What are you?" Tiller demanded. "We are remembrance," Ezekiel said. "We are memory made flesh, death preserved, blood that does not fade." Mosley screamed as Anna Halbert touched him and turned to salt. He collapsed into a pile of grey dust. Barker fired wildly, shattering stained glass windows. Rowe dropped to his knees, praying, and Tiller if Amos Tiller grabbed the heavy bell rope in the centre of the house and pulled. The bell rang, once, twice, 3 times, and the house stopped. The Halberts froze, every figure, every corpse, every shadow. Ezekiel hissed, "You don't know what you've done." "I know enough," Tiller said, and lit a match. He tossed it into the hallway curtains, soaked in lamp oil. Flames roared to life. The house screamed, not the people, the house. It howled like a dying animal, walls pulsing, floors cracking, stained glass bursting from the heat. The men ran, through the smoke, through the fire, through the fog. Only 3 made it out, Tiller, Barker, and Rowe, who would never speak another word. Behind them the house burned, the bell tower collapsed, the flames turned black, and when it was done, when the fire had eaten itself to ash, there was nothing left. No rubble, no timbers, no bodies, just an empty clearing, and a patch of earth that steamed for 7 days. If Amos Tiller never spoke of that night again, not in public, not to the mayor, not even to the other 2 survivors. He filed a simple report. House burned, cause faulty lantern, no remains recovered. And that was that. But the people of Grayson County knew better, because after that night the land changed. The clearing where the Halbert house once stood refused to grow. No grass, no moss, just scorched earth that steamed when it rained, as if the fire still simmered beneath. Hunters avoided the place. Compass needles spun wildly nearby. Dogs barked and whimpered when taken too close. Then came the dreams, first among the deputies. Barker woke screaming of Abigail's open eyes. Rowe, already mute, gouged spirals into the wood of his cabin with his fingernails until they bled. Others began to whisper of music organ notes drifting from the hills long after the church bell had fallen. Then came the graves. 3 families, all neighbors to the Halberts, discovered their ancestral plots disturbed. Stones toppled, soil churned, coffins empty. No one had seen anything. But one boy, out playing near dusk, returned home pale and shaking. "They're walking again," he said. "They're walking, and they remember." The town wanted to believe it was over. That fire had ended it, but fire cannot kill what was never truly alive. The legacy of Ezekiel Halbert in early spring. Tiller received a letter, no name, no return address, just a single line of text in handwriting he recognized as Ezekiel's, not buried, not broken, only waiting. He burned it. But that night, a gold coin appeared on his windowsill, one of the same currency the Halberts had always paid with. Tiller left it there. By morning it was gone. He began digging through old records, land deeds, church registries, and what he found chilled him to the core. The Halberts had not settled Grayson County after the war. They had been there before, far before. A 1783 census listed Ezekiel Halbert as a landowner, age listed as 37. A church ledger from 1811 bore the name Ezekiel Halbert, again this time as a benefactor, same name, same handwriting, and in a Revolutionary War muster roll dated 1777, a Sergeant Ezekiel Halbert had served at Valley Forge. There was even a land grant from 1755, all the same man, no aging, no death, just Ezekiel, always Ezekiel. Tiller understood then. The Halberts didn't die, they transitioned, preserved by something older, deeper. Something bound to the land, not buried, not broken, only waiting. He stopped digging after that. He resigned the sheriff's post and moved west into obscurity, but the land didn't forget. Present day, the area where the Halbert house once stood is now government-owned. Fenced off, officially marked as a failed development site, due to unpredictable soil instability. No one builds there, no one stays long, but every few years hikers go missing. Campers hear music in the fog. Locals find wax, sealed animal carcasses hanging in the trees. One night in 1996, a surveyor disappeared. His camera was recovered. The final photo showed a house rising from the fog 3 stories tall, with 12 gables and a bell tower. The next day, the clearing was empty, but near the edge of the woods, nailed to a tree, was a coin, gold, freshly minted, and beneath it, etched into the bark, "We remember." They never buried their dead, because the Halberts did not believe in endings, only in keeping. Over time, a theory grew among the few who knew the truth, a whispered idea that chilled even the most skeptical historians. The Halberts were preserving something. Not just bodies, souls, and the method was ancient, a dark rite whispered from Appalachian folk magic, older than European settlement, possibly even older than the Cherokee. The ritual was called the hoarding. It required sealing the dead within consecrated chambers, keeping their names, their rooms, their likenesses, and never letting the world forget them. As long as they were remembered, they remained. And the Halberts remembered everything, every portrait, every lock of hair, every trinket, toy, and stitched name. But memory is a curse when shared in blood. 1998, Grayson County, Virginia, a man named Joel Whittaker bought an old surveying map at an estate sale. A collector of Appalachian oddities, he saw a reference to Halbert Hollow and was intrigued. He followed the trail, found the old boundary markers, found the steam, and at last found the clearing. It was silent, no birds, no wind, just earth that pulsed warm beneath his feet. He brought equipment, lidar, drones, sensors. The readings were impossible. A massive stone structure beneath the soil, chambered, layered, geometrically perfect, like a cathedral turned inside out, and at its center, a void. He camped there for 6 days, logging data. On the 7th night, his notes ended with a final entry. "I hear organ music from below. I don't think I'm alone." Whittaker was never seen again. But his drone footage survived. Frame by frame, it shows the clearing at dusk. Then a faint shimmer. Then a structure growing, blooming like a wound. 12 gables, a bell tower, and standing on the porch, a man with a white beard. Smiling, waiting. Epilogue: they never left. Some say the Halberts were cursed. Others say they struck a bargain. But the truth may be worse. They simply chose not to die, not out of fear, but out of love, twisted, obsessive, eternal love for their own blood. They could not let go, could not bear to bury what they made, so they remembered, they sealed, they preserved, and in doing so, they created a family that would never end, a lineage trapped in perfect, horrifying stasis. Not dead, not alive, just waiting. Closing notes for listeners. Would you have opened Abigail's door? Would you have burned the house? Or joined the memory? Comment your theory below. And don't forget to follow Echoes of Evil for more stories buried by time. Because some families die and some remember.